Hello to you. So first things first, if you are watching this on the YouTubes, do make sure that you click on the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified when new videos come on. If you're watching somewhere else, go over to YouTube, search my first and last name, click on the subscribe button, bell so you get notified when new videos come on, because not only are you going to actually learn things from me because I know what I'm talking about, not only that, but also once a week, somebody wins something. So as long as you are subscribed to my YouTube channel and commenting on my YouTube videos, one person every single week that does both of those things wins something. So there's that. Now we're going to go ahead and get into it. If you guys have questions, feel free to go ahead and ask the questions as I'm talking. Whenever I'm done, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to look at the comments and see what questions you have so I'm able to answer them for you. Sound fair, you guys? Michelle, pivot blessings. Pivot is typically a blessing, actually. It is usually a blessing in disguise. To me, it's a blessing, a bold-faced blessing, but to a lot of people, it ends up being a blessing in disguise because they don't expect it. Nicole, happy Monday. Lorna, morning, lovely lady. Cindy, good morning to you. So let's go ahead and get into it, you guys. Andrea, good morning, I see you there. So when is it time for a pivot? So yesterday, whenever I was in church, the pastor was preaching about closed doors. And it really made me think about business, because anytime I think about anything, it always goes to business. That's just how I'm wired, right? And so he was talking about, how many closed doors are you just standing outside of trying to kick down instead of looking around at what is now available to you? So in the message, he was talking about how I believe it was Paul and Silas, I believe, they were getting ready to go, they wanted to go into Asia, okay? And they had to go south in order to go into Asia, and then Jesus shut the door on that, right? So they couldn't go south, and they were like, okay, well, we'll go north into Asia. Jesus shut the door on that and was like, nope, not gonna happen, okay, guys? And then the only way left that they had was to go west. Well, they could have seen that as closed door, failure, right? But those of us that are a little bit more wise in our years and in our understanding of how God works are able to look at that and say, closed door, go the open way, right? Go the open way. It's the way you're supposed to go. Well, now all of us in the Western Hemisphere can say, praise the Lord that they went the open way, because going west was the very first way. Like that opened the door to us being able to hear the message and that sort of thing. So on down the line, that's why the door was opened for us, right? So there is that. So a lot of people don't understand pivots, and that was a pivot for them, right? But they don't understand pivots in that they're not bad things. And we need to understand when it's our time for a pivot. We need to understand that not to try to hang on to things that are dying, because things don't accidentally die. Things die so that we can move on to something else. Okay? So we're going to be able to talk about today 3 different signals for you to be able to understand it might be time for a pivot for you. A story for me in specific of a pivot that was necessary for us is we, a long time ago, ran a magazine, our own magazine. We, Mike and I, together, only us, from the ground up created a magazine, and it was called Iowa Pets, and it was to help put shelter animals in the spotlight. So we would put stories behind. Here's why. is because I was volunteering at a local animal shelter and I didn't know much about the animal shelters until I started volunteering for them. And I was like, gosh, if the rest of the community doesn't really know about these animal shelters and these animals that are here, how on earth are they supposed to be adopted? So then, of course, my mind went to work, and this is years ago, but my mind went to work and I was like, we need to create stories behind these animals. So then people can attach themselves to the story and they can come in and they can adopt the animal, not just on what the animal looks like. First of all, they'll know that this animal is here, but then they'll hear its backstory and they'll fall in love with it and they'll want to go adopt that animal. That's how it works. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And so what Mike and I did is we created the magazine called Iowa Pets, and it was we had tons of shelter animals in there every single month. It was a monthly publication. And it was something like 90% of the animals that were in the magazine every single month were adopted by the next month. So it was doing its job. Well, eventually we realized, and maybe we'll go back to it, who knows, but we realized that we couldn't continue doing that because it was a flat line. We weren't making money off of it. There were advertisers and that sort of thing. We weren't making money and we weren't losing money. It was a flat line. So far as financial, so far as finances were concerned, it was a flat line. Well, a flat line is never a flat line. It's usually this. Because that's just finances. Well, whenever we add time into it, it was actually doing this. Because we spent a lot of time. This is when I was still working for, corporate America. He wasn't at that point. But that's where we were like, oh gosh, we had to pivot. We had to move away from it. That was going to be like our thing. We were going to stay with that. Now, we had to move away from it. We still do a lot with shelter animals, and we might move back into that. That's not what I'm saying right now, but we were able to bring, because it was around for a year and a half or so, we were able to bring so much illumination to the shelter animals in the area that now people knew that they existed. So our job was done in that city, so far as that was concerned, okay? But whenever we flatlined, which actually was a down cycle because of how much time we spent into it, that was a pivot. It was time for us to pivot. We couldn't keep doing that, right? And so the pivot looked like this. The pivot was us creating, this is about the time where I quit my job and created the digital marketing business, right? Agency, the digital marketing agency. That was where that started. It was a pivot away from the magazine, and not away from the magazine, but a pivot from the magazine to the next step. Now let's look at it for what it was. Was the magazine a failure? No. What did we learn? We learned what doesn't work, okay? We learned about getting advertisers. Mike learned how to make a magazine. Like in InDesign, right? Mike became an Adobe creator extraordinaire. This dude can make anything, right? And it all came from those young days of creating this magazine. And then the pivot went into digital marketing. Awesome. Well, now we're able to offer so many things as a marketing agency because we understand business so well. And Mike understands now so much about design and what is necessary, right? And so I need for you guys to understand that pivots aren't failure becoming something else. Pivots are, let's look at what we learned here and let's take it with us. Let's put it in our backpack and let's take it with us on the hike up the mountain, right? That's what a pivot is. Whenever you look at pivot as a failure, you're doing yourself an injustice. That no time that we spend doing anything is time wasted. You have to look at what you gleaned from that. You have to look at what you gained from that. You have to look at why you're better because of that. Okay? Just to understand that. That's my own story about a pivot. But now we're going to talk about these three things, okay? So when is it time for a pivot? Point one, when you don't love what you do. Okay? So there's a point where as you begin anything, you should, I hope, love what you do. You should be extremely passionate about it. You should love the people that you're working with. You should just like bubble up with excitement to be able to serve these people, right? When that starts to fade, you need to pivot, okay? And it's not because these people are bad, and it's not because you are bad. It's because it's time to pivot. A door is being shut, okay? And understand this, a pivot doesn't mean that you do a completely different business. A pivot means a tweak. A pivot means maybe serving these same people in a different way. Pivots can be different services to the same audience. All a pivot means is that you don't continue doing the very same thing that you've been doing all the time. That's all pivot means. Pivot equals growth. Okay? We need to normalize the pivot as growth. The pivot is not a bad thing. If you're not pivoting, that's a bad thing. We should always consistently be pivoting in our lives, in our personal development, in our personal growth. And if you're a business owner, it needs to be in your business too. We need to always be pivoting and always be growing, or else you're going to be a cesspool of a pond that does not move, that has no growth. Okay? For you or your people. All right? Number two, you need to pivot if you're not connected to your people. So you might be running a business today and say, well, I've got this business and da-da-da-da, like I've been running this business for some time and I'm doing all right. My question for you is, do you feel the pulse of your people? Do you feel their needs as though they're your own? Do you feel their desires as though they're your own? Do you feel their heart's desire? Do you feel their fears? Do you feel their wants? Do you feel where they are in the journey as though it's you? Do you feel the pulse of your people? Do you feel the heartbeat of your people as though it's you? If you do not, you need to pivot. Sorry, I got an eyelash. It's just going to keep going. That's a time for a pivot. If you don't feel your people, I'm serious about that, and that's massive. I feel you guys. You know that I do. I can speak directly to you. I know what you feel. And I don't pretend that I don't, and I don't pretend that I'm better than that, and I don't pretend anything. I feel what you feel, because if I don't feel what you feel, how on earth am I going to help you? I can't. I wouldn't even know what to do. I stay in the trenches with you. I stay on the pulse and in the heartbeat of you guys, because I need to know where you are, because unless we're honest about where we are, we cannot go anywhere. Okay? Except down. And so I'm very honest and transparent in understanding where you guys are, because that's how I can get you moving further, because I know where you are. So if you're not in that space or not desiring to be in that space with your people, you need a pivot. If you don't desire to be in that space with your people, you need to pivot in who your audience is and what you're doing to serve them. That is a pivot that needs to happen if you don't feel who your audience is. If you don't feel but you want to feel who they are, then you might need to pivot in the way that you communicate with your audience. You might need to communicate, or you might need to pivot in the way that you serve your audience and how connected you are with your audience. We have too many gurus out there teaching a disconnected business and a disjointed business. There are too many gurus out there saying, build your business and build it full on in automation and never have to talk to a single person. That sounds really good to lazy people. What about people that want to create impact in the world? That don't sound good to people that want to create impact in the world. I don't want a disjointed message. I don't want to not feel my audience. I have to feel my audience because I can't help you if I can't feel where you're at. Okay? You need to pivot if you can't feel that, guys. Number 3, if you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, you need to pivot. That is what it's like for a door to close. That's what it feels like when a door is closed. You feel like you are pushing a boulder up a hill. You feel like, oh my gosh, why is this so hard? Why can't they understand I'm here for them? Why isn't this working for me? I know I'm here to serve. I know what I want to serve doing. I know that I know things they need to know. Why don't they know it and why don't they get it? You need to pivot. The door is closed. That's what it feels like. I've been there. I've experienced so many closed doors, you guys. Here's what I've learned through my life is that I stopped standing outside the closed door, knocking and trying to use a battering ram to bulldoze it down. And instead, I look at the closed door, I turn my back to it to see everything else. All right, what else is here? What's open? What's open? Where am I supposed to go? Right? Turn your back to a closed door, guys. We can't just keep trying to knock it down. If you knock it down, you are missing out on what the preacher said yesterday. You are missing out on God's best. Because here's the thing, is there's what we think is best for us, and then there's what God really has for us. He's closing a door, you guys, so you can see an open door that is way better than anything you could do yourself. You got to honor the closed door. Turn your back to it and say, okay, what else is there? Because you're not only missing out on God's best for you, but someone else is missing out on God's best through you. That's your responsibility. That's on you. So, if you feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, pivot. And it doesn't, again, what I'm saying here, a pivot doesn't mean a grandiose 180-degree, I was going here and now I'm going here. Maybe it does, maybe, but not usually. Usually it's a slight tweak and it's a slight turn and it's maybe even the next door over. This door is shut and the next door over is like, ooh, okay, this kind of feels good. Maybe I'll do that. This kind of feels good, that's your door. They're like, oh, that's exciting. That's your door. Okay? I mean, even if it brings tears to your eyes. I had something bring me to my knees yesterday. And I was like, I need to do this. Those are our open doors. Those are our open doors. An open door is going to make you bubble up. An open door is going to be like, oh my gosh, where you just get like so many downloads, right? Where you are just open, you're an open vessel and you are being spoken into. That's an open door. A closed door is where you're pushing and you're upset and you're feeling like a failure. It's our way to get us back on track. It's tough love, right? The door's shut so another one can be walked through. So you guys, if you're experiencing the closed door, or if you're experiencing any of this and you're like, okay, I think I do need to pivot. I think a pivot might be necessary for me. It's probably most of you guys that are watching right now that are saying like, okay, I think maybe a pivot is necessary. Everybody in business, you will consistently pivot. You won't just pivot once, you'll pivot many, 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 many times. If you're a successful business person, you will pivot many, 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 many times. Unsuccessful business people will never pivot once and their business will die. And so will their impact. Okay? So if you're experiencing any of these things, your next step is HBR. Okay? Your next step is to get into my community where I teach you how to do what I've done, where I'm not going to treat a pivot like a negative thing, where we're going to clap for you for your pivots, where we're going to clap for you for your light bulb moments of, oh my gosh, I think this is it. You need to be in a community of people that embrace a pivot. Okay? So in HBR, not only do we have weekly momentum calls, which are group coaching calls, which are an hour of basically me answering questions, giving advice, doing business coaching, where you get answers regardless of whether you ask the question or not. Because I don't know if you've ever been to church on a Sunday, but that message hits everybody differently. And that's how our momentum calls are as well, right? It'll hit you where it's supposed to hit you, okay? You'll learn things and your eyes will be open to things that you didn't realize you even needed to know, all right? So there is that. You also have a team of coaches. Man, this eyelash though. There it goes. You also have there's more. You also have a team of coaches that you can email any question ever. So you're welcome to go ahead and email them and they're going to answer you. And if they don't have an answer for you, it comes up to me and then I answer you. There's no reason at all for you to be stuck in HBR. HBR stands for Home-Based Revolution, in case you didn't know. There's no reason for you to be stuck. So don't feel like this is going to be something that you pay for and another thing that doesn't do anything for you. I've been in those over and over and over again. I know the feeling. I also know the fear going into it, like, am I wasting my money? You're not wasting your money on HBR. There's no reason in life for you to ever be stuck. You're always in growth in HBR. You pay for it once and you're in it for life. Now, that doesn't mean that you just have access to the curriculum for life. That means that you have access to the coaches and to group coaching for life. And you have access to all of the upgrades that come along with it for life. And I keep adding to it, okay? HBR is precisely what has worked for me in building my own business, but that doesn't mean you have to build a business like me. I teach you how to do it like you. Nobody looks the same in HBR. You don't see a bunch of cookie cutter business owners. I teach you how to do it in a way that honors you, your soul, how you're here to serve. And so if you're watching this and you're like, okay, that's cool. I don't really even know what to do. Like as a business or as income streams, we work through that. It's included. We try to think of everything that you could potentially need. We literally sit down. It's one of our things that we do every week is that we sit down and think, what else? What else do they need? What else do they need? What else do they need? That's HBR. You've never seen anything like it before, period. Okay. We have an e-commerce site that is going to be live pretty soon. This is also included in your, when you sign up for HBR. You're going to be able to sell your skills if you want to sell like VA services, virtual assistant services, or your programs. You're going to be able to sell your programs on my e-commerce site. Okay? Not an extra monthly expense. You're going to be able to sell your products on my site. You've never seen anything like this before. Now, next, I have people contacting me all the time asking for like one-on-one time with me. I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I think that's understandable. So what I'm doing instead is I'm creating a certification course for business strategists. So you can learn to do business strategy the same way that I do, which is a way that nobody else on the planet does. It's the Martha Krejci way. Nobody else does it this way. And so I'm going to let you be certified under me. Not only that, I'm going to bring people to you. There's 3 or 4 different ways that you're going to be getting leads and getting people. Like I'm feeding you. There's nothing like this. You've never seen anything like this ever. You guys, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to make sure you're good. I'm here to make sure that you take what you're here for out into the world and you serve your own people in a way that isn't salesy, sleazy, and weird. I'm not just here to teach you automations and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you learn that. You learn how to do that stuff if you want to do it. You don't have to. But what I'm really here for is to show you how to create community and how to be able to serve that community and also create income streams around yourself while you're doing it in a way, again, that isn't salesy, sleazy, and weird. That's HBR. It was half off over the weekend for my baby because she graduated kindergarten. I'm going to go ahead and extend that until midnight tonight. So it'll be half off until midnight tonight. Okay. What you're going to do is you message my Facebook business page, Livin the Dream with Martha, right here. Message me the words case study, rainbows and unicorns, whatever you want to message me. We'll have a chat. I'll give you the details of the program. You're in or you're out. And it makes no difference. I mean, to me, I'm not going to be like, you need to join. I'm not salesy, sleazy, or weird. I'm not going to do that to you. It's not what I teach you to do. But I'm massively successful and I can show you how to do it in a way that's laid back and heart-centered and soul-connected with you instead of anything else. Nothing else. Everything else is garbage. Okay? So I mentioned that you pay once and that you're in it for life. And then the last thing, you guys, is this strategy actually works. This isn't webinars. This isn't whatever. This actually works. And surprisingly, it actually doesn't even require that much tech. Really doesn't. This actually works. This is what we're supposed to be doing, you guys. Okay? I have a student that just last night messaged me. She was so excited, and I love it. She just last night messaged me that she just had her first 2K week, her first $2,000 week. And I'm like, oh, yes, because I know how her whole life has been a culmination up until this point, where it's been trying different things and sort of there was a little bit of hustle involved there for a while. And then, we all as moms, we experience mom guilt whenever we start going into this hustle life that we just don't really feel like is right for our families and for our kids. And gosh, we didn't really sign up for this. But now she's not hustling. She just made her first 2K week and she knows this is just the beginning. You guys, everyone can do this. Everyone. There's nobody on the planet that is any less than. This is for all of us. You have to take the step and you have to do it. That's on you. But you can do this. This is for you too. For real. Okay, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to answer questions if you guys have it. Jamie, showing up for our people. That's what we are here for. HBR makes the difference. Boom. Love it. Natasha, Martha, is it normal though to constantly feel like I am in a pivot? I feel like surely I should be moving past that. I know kind of the answer. I guess I just need to know. Yeah, it's normal, especially in the very beginning. You're going to feel like you're pivoting left and right because you're finding your sweet spot. In the very beginning, you're finding your sweet spot of where you want to anchor in and serve. And so you're going to feel that. Yeah. You just decide which place feels best to anchor in and serve. As you move through your business, pivots happen for me now, and I've been doing this for a long time, but pivots still happen for me probably every 3 months or so. So like I said, a pivot isn't always a grandiose, I'm doing something new, because I'm not doing anything new than I was 3 months ago. I add things and I choose different ways to serve and I change things. And that's what a pivot looks like. It's more in refinement as your business goes on. It's still a pivot. I still look at it as a pivot, but it's a refinement, right? In the very beginning, you are going to experience a lot of pivots. That's not weird at all. Cindy, you may get dizzy from the pivots, but it settles. Yeah. That's why you need to be in a community that embraces a pivot. That's why you need to be in a community that doesn't make you feel crazy for going through the pivots, because you're just finding your space. Natasha, thanks, Martha. Just what I needed to hear, refinement. That's it. That's it. Let's see. I'm going to kind of scroll back just a little bit. Cindy, consistently pivot. People think pivot is a bad word. Yes. Amanda, this is huge confirmation for me. Thank you, Martha. Again, thank you for being a Moses. I love it. I love it. Nicole, I was on my knees when the Martha door opened. Now my cup is overflowing with ideas and passions and fulfillment and creativity and all the things. Thank God I chose to walk through that door. Oh, yes. When you don't know what to do, drop to your knees, y'all. If you don't know what to do, drop to your knees. Nicole, that's how I felt in my network marketing business. I spent 9 years banging my head on that closed door. That's the thing. That's it. You guys, I love you so much. I'm going to pop out of here. You have the best day. Bye-bye.